Oh boy. Hey Stacy, what's up? I see you there. Tanisha, how are you? I really don't even know where to begin. I've got a myriad of thoughts. So good morning. Welcome to another edition of Chamber 7's More of That Opinion I'm sure you didn't ask for. Yesterday, I put up a post, and I'm not here to name names. If you get an opportunity to take a look, fine. If you don't, whatever. But you know me, just a matter of conversation. Yesterday I put up a post and I said pro-black is not anti anyone else. Something to that effect, right? Most people agreed. One individual did not. The comparisons that were made included, and it was, my live yesterday went more towards, I've got a lot of these friends who are anti-BLM for a myriad of reasons. And I might not have clarified what my frustration with that is and where I stand with it either. My stance with it is I am anti-police bullying and police brutality. I realize both of those aren't the same, but I mean the same thing. I'm not a fan of bullying the police per se, and I'm not a fan of police brutality either. I have been under the impression that the crux of the Black Lives Matter movement organization was to work on that premise, as far as, you know, getting rid of, or at least working towards police reform so that we can remove police brutality. Will you ever be able to fully get rid of it? No. Will we ever be able to eradicate all disease? No. Will we ever be able to eliminate all poverty? No, because there are so many different contributing factors that go into everything that 100% is almost impossible for global issues. However, the main premise was supposed to be for that. The argument that came up was, well, can you be pro anything else? And I, if I'm being honest, some of my other friends answered it. I didn't even read the fucking rest of the comments. I made a few back and forth statements. The individual that I know, you know, me and him are cool as far as I know to some extent. I think he has a very, and if he catches this, cool, because I'll probably end up saying it to him anyway. But I literally didn't read through the rest of the comments or the discussion that went back and forth, because I recognize I can't get involved in every fight, every discussion, every exchange. He and I have had several exchanges, and sometimes I feel like I'm making headway, and other times I really honestly do not. Uh-oh. The gentleman was transporting some boards, and apparently one of them fell off, and he felt the need to get in my lane. So anyway, that was interesting. This proves that when I'm driving, I'm actually paying attention when I'm driving too. I can actually talk and drive at the same time. I've been doing this a long time. So anyway, the premise of the discussion was more towards the, can you be pro-white or pro-Asian? And I'm like, you can, what's up there, James? How you doing? You can be proud of your heritage, absolutely, but the words pro-white have long already developed a history that show that the premise is not necessarily what's the word I'm looking for? It's not built on the foundation of being proud of one's heritage. Pro-white usually means anti-everybody else. Let me give you a clear example. I went into the and I think I've told this story before, but I'm gonna tell it again because I think it's appropriate for this particular situation. I went into a crystal store in Little Five Points here in Georgia. Those of y'all who've been to Little Five Points know what I'm talking about. It's almost right at the corner where you can get super dope parking, by the way. It's 1 block away from the Vortex. I went into this crystal store and they've got, you know, crystals and spiritual stuff of all different types, several different religions and so on. What's going on, TC? And while I was in there, I saw this one statue, had an elephant head on it, human body, had its hand out like this, and in the palm of the hand was a swastika. So I was like, what is that? So I recognized that I don't know everything. So I went over to the lady at the counter. The young lady at the counter I said, hey, I have to ask a question out of ignorance, but can you show me something? And she said, sure. Morning, Mimi, I see you. And she said, sure. So she went over to the counter. She went over to the statue with me. And I said, why is this swastika is in the middle of the palm of this statue? And she said, this statue is historically Hindu. And the swastika used to represent peace. That was the original intent of the swastika. Okay? I don't understand why it's so difficult for people to understand that the definition of a word or the readily accepted version of the word changes based on public opinion. Like I don't know why that's so difficult to understand. Like the baffling ideology that by taking down Confederate statues, we're erasing history. No, we're telling you the truth. I'm gonna hit you with one that dawned on me earlier. What's up, Mark? I see you, bro. History has now made it clear Thomas Jefferson had a young black female impregnated, or he impregnated a young black female, and she had his child. That's widely known, right? But you know what I never hear? Now follow me. If you are an older man, or no, I'm gonna just say it like this. If you're an older man and you have sex with a younger woman, you are a molester or a pedophile. So here's where I'm confused. Thomas Jefferson slept with a 14-year-old child, and she had his child. Nowhere in the history books are you going to find somebody calling Thomas Jefferson a pedophile. But by definition, that's exactly what he is. What's up, Patrick? I think you'll find this subject interesting. So this is the thought process that I went on instead of going in a back and forth rant about the differences between pro-white and pro-black. Thomas Jefferson slept with a slave who was like 14, 15 years old. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. She had his child. But I have never seen in the history books where Thomas Jefferson was ever called a pedophile. But by definition, that's exactly what he is, right? Follow me on this train of thought. So back to the discussion with the gentleman, and he was like, well, can you be pro-white, pro-Asian, or pro-whatever? And I was like, nah, you can't. Plain and simple. Because pro-white has long always been attributed with anti-everything else. So you can be very for your heritage, but I don't recommend using the words pro-white because history has shown that that's not a good thing, right? Just the same way as the swastika is not considered a good thing, even though its original intent was, right, he was a rapist, and he basically raped a slave. Thank you. So, thank you, Mimi. Sally Hemingway. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Tanisha. So, how old was she was my question. So, my thing is, I said to him, the problem that you have is you seem to think that pro-white and pro-black are the same, and they're not. They're not. They're just not. I'm not saying white people can't be proud of their heritage. There is white heritage that you can be proud of. I'm not saying that at all. However, the widely accepted history of white people that's been shown has also been shown to be a fucking lie. Christopher Columbus didn't discover shit except somebody else's house, and then killed a bunch of people because they couldn't provide him with what he thought was supposed to be there. We literally called them American Indians because of the fact that they thought they were in India, and he didn't even land on the United States. Back to my point. So I earnestly believe, and this is my thought process, that the reason we don't call Thomas Jefferson a pedophile, a rapist, is because in order to be a pedophile, you not only have to abuse a young child, that young child is a human being, but at the time, we didn't consider slaves human beings. So that's why none of the history books show him as such. Now, it can also be agreed that pedophilia was probably not well known or not as considered prominent back then, but like, that's not an excuse, because like we see it, like we know about it now, and it's still not in the history books. Different accounts say her age was 14 to 16. So, okay, thank you. So again, but she was still pretty young. Facts. All right. So I appreciate that. Thank you both of y'all. I appreciate y'all. A child either way, exactly. And that's what's frustrating to me, is that, and I've long said this, you have to go to the foundation of it. And I think that that's the crux of all miscommunication. Now, do I earnestly feel like the gentleman I was having this discussion with means me any harm? No, I honestly don't. He's a older white gentleman. He and I have trained in martial arts together. His son also trained in martial arts. His son and I have also trained in martial arts. So we've spent a lot of time together. He's met my mother. You know, we're really cool. But I believe that the foundation of his thought process is we're all equal. But it's very difficult. Good morning, Marie. How are you? It's very difficult to explain a stance when most people don't see that there is a significant difference. We are basically all made up of similar genetic code. We just like are a little bit different from each other because we've evolved and we've adapted based on where we come from, right? So, however, society does not see us all the same, and that's just fact. I went to Poland when I was in the military, and they, to this day, do not look at both black people and Italians like you're human, like or at least the skinhead population didn't. I shouldn't say that about Poland for anybody who's Polish. I'm not saying the whole country's like that, but when I went there, we had a briefing, and it just so happened that my Liberty buddy, or the guy that I was supposed to we're supposed to stake together in twos at the very least. And my Liberty buddy was an Italian guy. The first thing in the brief they said was Italians and blacks need to be careful because there's a large skinhead population here, and they probably ain't gonna like you. And we were like, well, shit. But we still went out and we still hung out. And while I was out, sure enough, you know, I got called a nigger, and I kept my head down because, you know, a lot of y'all don't understand. Sometimes, you know, going home alive is more important than doing something stupid. You know what I'm saying? Being pro something is only necessary if there's an opposition. Opposition to what? Oh, that's a good fact. That's a very good point. The statement that was made was being pro anything is usually because if there's an opposition to it, but there's nothing in opposition to being white. Like, I think white people feel like they're under attack because of the fact that, you know, the truth of the history is being revealed, that a lot of people are starting to see a lot of truth in some things, and it's freaking them out. Well, it's history. It's like, we're not rewriting history. We're just reporting the truth of it. These are facts. And if you don't like it, instead of refuting it or rebutting it or making up excuses, turn around and say to yourself, what can I do today to change history to be better than my ancestors? I know for a fact I got ancestry that, like, all black people weren't great and amazing and awesome. There are a lot of black people that did a lot of dumb shit. I personally have played a black serial killer on several occasions. Okay, on TV. I've acted for many years, and I played a black serial killer. Those weren't great and awesome people. I played one of the biggest black serial killers that nobody ever hears about. And you know why nobody ever hears about it? Because there aren't that many black serial killers. That doesn't mean we're all great. What's my point? When I hear these conversations about Black Lives Matter and how it's being funded by George Soros or whoever, and the agenda is wrong and this, that, and the other, I think we're forgetting the fundamentals. And maybe my brain is fixated on the fundamentals because my job has always been to solve problems and fix shit. That's literally what I do. I went to school to be a mechanical engineer, and this isn't me bragging. This is just me telling you the truth. It's just facts. Like, and that's all I know is to like solve problems. I was a Lego kid. I like putting stuff together. I like taking it apart. I like fixing cars. I got a ton of tools. You know, nothing makes me happier than having to go to Home Depot and buy another power tool. So my big thing is we are so fixated on all the other like minor details that we're not paying attention to the little stuff like, yo, does any of that shit that you said really matter when it's all said and done? Like, can we talk about the fact that at the end of the day, the police murder people, and people want to keep saying, oh well, nah, but they kill white people too. But why does that fucking matter? We got a president right now that literally said, oh, but they kill white people too. Oh, so you're okay with that? That doesn't make any sense. Police brutality on any level is fucking wrong. Well, Blue Lives Matter. Completely, you know what? That's awesome. I get it. Blue Lives Matter. So why is it okay to say Blue Lives Matter, but not Black Lives Matter? I literally can't take this shit off. You can take off a uniform, you can get another job. People can never know you're a cop. They always know I'm black. Always. Second you see me, yup, he black. So I think it's awfully ironic that the same people who say all lives matter say Blue Lives Matter, but saying Black Lives Matter all of a sudden puts a pine cone in their throat. Like, you do understand that by saying Blue Lives Matter, you're solidifying our point. Nobody ever said that blue lives didn't matter. It's just the fact that the difference between like cops and regular citizens is cops come with guns. Oh no, you went to court over it. A lot of the cops get off for that because a lot of the cops work with the same people who have to convict. Like, let's be realistic. Come on, man. Like, when does the common sense kick in is my point. When do we stop arguing with each other so much that we recognize police brutality is wrong? Why is that such a difficult concept? I don't know why that's so, it's frustrating to me. It's frustrating. When I first got here to Atlanta, I had to get new tags for my car, and for a little while I lapsed and I didn't have an up-to-date tag on the back of my car. And to get a tag here in Georgia, like it's a hassle. Like, I gotta go stand, like I stood in line. I think I was there from 11 o'clock until like almost 4 o'clock that afternoon, just waiting to get my tag for the car. But before I got my tag, I had to go a previous day on an appointment because of COVID, just to get my driver's license changed. So my point being, that was almost like a month-long process. During that month, my tags were expired. I was scared. I wasn't scared because I was afraid of getting pulled over and getting a ticket. Nah. I was scared because I was going to get pulled over by the wrong fucking cop and get more than a ticket, but a bullet in the ass. How many people can reasonably say that that's a fear that they had? I know plenty of black people right now that every single time they see a cop, they slow down, they freak out, heart rate goes up. Why? There was a video of a child one time, he was playing basketball in his own yard, and a cop was coming down the street. The kid hid behind the truck. It's caught on security camera. Why did he hide behind the truck? He wasn't doing anything wrong. He was just playing basketball. The fear is he'd get caught doing something wrong. But doing what? What's the imagery that we're portraying to our kids right now? You know, and that's what scares me. That's what frightens me. And where do we go from here if every conversation that we have, when we say, hey, look, you know, these are the challenges that we deal with, and the first thing people throw up in their face is, well, these are the challenges we deal with too. What the fuck? But we're not talking about your challenges right now, bro. So what are we saying? And if y'all are so concerned about all lives matter, right? Answer this question for me. I ain't never seen an all lives matter march for a white person that got killed during police brutality. Ever. And if there has been one, show me. I'll stand out there with you. As long as I can count on you to stand out there with me when it comes time for Black Lives Matter. The only reason you say all lives matter too is because you can't say white lives matter. Like, realistically. Because it's literally not about, it's not about police brutality when you say all lives matter. It's just not. It doesn't make sense. You've already had several different people have said it, a fear of the badge. You're right, a fear of the badge. And you know what's scary for me about that? Electra, what's going on? How are you, Miss Palmer? Mrs. Palmer, excuse me. I have, for a long time, wondered why there's so much, like, so much of a struggle to figure out what people are saying when the simple discussion has always been, well, all we want is to be able to be treated like a human being. And to the outsiders looking in, they reasonably think, oh, you are being treated like a human being. We're like, no, we're not. And when you said a fear of the badge, the first thought that crossed my mind was, well, where did he get that fear from? Has he had a run-in with the cops before? Has he seen a run-in with the cops before? And that's what's scary to me, man. Is that a lot of these kids deal with shit like that at a young age. I just watched the news report this morning, as a matter of fact, where a child went home and her brother was like, you gotta tell dad. But the child was verbally assaulted by some other kids, and when she told the teacher told her, don't tell your dad. The teacher told her that. So her brother was like, nah, you need to tell dad about that. Shouts out to little brothers who take care of sisters. So she told dad. Dad went up to the school. Dad recorded the conversation, and the lady was like, because I thought the situation was handled. But even if the situation was handled, you knew it was bad enough that it warranted like a discussion, because if you didn't feel like that, you wouldn't have told her to lie to me. That's the kind of foolishness we deal with. Like, let's have a real talk conversation about how we communicate with each other. And I'm not just talking about race, I'm talking about gender too, like between men and women. A lot of us just don't get it. I want to hear women's issues. I want to hear the problems that y'all face. I understand that men don't always get it right, and I talk to a lot of my female friends, and they tell me some of the dumb shit that men do. I get it. I get it. I had a conversation with one of my female friends just not too long ago, and like, she was under the impression men don't go through shit like that, and I was like, what gives you that impression that men don't go through similar shit? And sure enough, after we had our discussion, she was like, oh, wow, I didn't know that. But you're never gonna know that because you're not a man. You don't see it from my side. So until we have a real talk conversation like two adults, you wouldn't know. And that's what I say to my white friends. Stop assuming you understand what I'm going through until you've had a conversation with me and you're empathetic enough to understand what I've been through. That's all I'm asking. That's literally all I'm asking, is to pay very close attention to what people are going through and how they've been suffering and what's happening. Well, look, I know a lot of y'all probably on your way to work, headed to work, or at work. I appreciate y'all stopping in to holler at me and listen to me and contributing to the conversation. I just want to drop some nuggets. I hope it helps. You know what I'm saying? Let's start reasonable conversation is all I'm asking. Give me your thoughts. You know what I'm saying? Let's have a discussion. Let's have a back and forth. And you know, to that particular gentleman, like I said, like it was open discussion. I literally haven't read some of the comments. I'm sure they were fiery. Good morning, Crystal. How are you? I'm sure the comments with regard to our exchange were fiery, because I know some of the people who were in the exchange, and I know that they had facts, and you know, I'm sure it was a worthwhile discussion. But at the time, sometimes you need to recognize when you do not have the appropriate energy for the conversation that's being involved. And I get it. I've had many times where a heavy conversation had to be had between me and somebody else, and they said, I'm not prepared to have this conversation right now. And I go, okay. And I left them alone. But I have a reasonable expectation that the next time you have a chance to have that conversation, you'll have it with me. It's more on that tomorrow. I think I want to talk about communication and how we fuck it up so easily. Like people not understanding when I tell them I'm super busy sometimes. I don't think they get it. And what normally happens is then they come hang out with me and they're physically in my presence and they're like, oh shit, wow, you are super busy. And I'm like, that's what I've been trying to tell you. Like, just because you see me every once in a while and you think I'm chilling and I'm not doing anything, I'm doing a lot of stuff all the time. And it's not because I like staying busy, it's just because I feel like there's a lot that I need to accomplish in a short period of time. So I'm trying to get it done before the last breath leaves this body. So I appreciate y'all staying tuned, checking it out. We got more content coming very soon. So good morning, brother. How are you, sir? It's good to see you, man. We were just chopping it up with regard to this whole racial tension in the atmosphere and what feels like the brink of another civil war. But I just hope it's never going to come to that, because the last thing we need is more bullshit. We got enough of that as it is, right? So anyway, I appreciate y'all.